Chapter 50. What are you doing here? I inquired aloud, my voice cutting through the solemn atmosphere of the gathering of demon lords. Kazarim, his eyes darting about the room in search of the source of my question, finally acknowledged my gaze with a muttered response. Are you referring to me? He questioned, his voice tinged with apprehension. I nodded, the intensity of the situation drawing the attention of the other demon lords towards us. Do you mean me? Kazarim sought clarification, his demeanor shifting from confusion to caution. With all eyes now fixed on me, I felt the weight of their scrutiny bearing down upon me, the tension thickening with each passing moment. What's this commotion about, newbie? Kazarim's voice cut through the silence, his tone a blend of curiosity and suspicion. Summoning my resolve, I stepped forward, my gaze unwavering. I'm looking for Leon. That spot, it belongs to him, I declared, my words echoing in the dimensional room. Leon, who's that? Kazarim turned to Guy, seeking enlightenment. Guy, his expression thoughtful, raised a hand to his chin, pondering the question at hand. If memory serves me right, there's a hero named Leon Cromwell, Guy finally spoke, his voice laced with uncertainty. But why the sudden interest, Rimuru? A sense of unease settled over the gathering, each of us grappling with the mystery that lay before us. It's best action to remain silent at this point. Ciel's warning reverberated in my mind. Exhaustion weighed heavy on my shoulders as I released a deep, weary sigh. Never mind, I muttered quietly, the words barely escaping my lips amidst the heavy atmosphere. Eurazania borders. Damn it, damn it, damn it. If I fail here, I'm dead, I muttered through clenched teeth, my heart pounding with fear and frustration. When had those cunning adversaries laid their traps? It seemed impossible to escape. They had ensnared us from every angle, mountainside, air, land, and even below ground. And amidst the chaos, explosive magic traps littered the battlefield, threatening to engulf us in destruction. Why? My mind raced with questions, grappling with the sheer audacity of our foes' tactics. The lycanthrope beastkeeters were a force Lord Clayman had anticipated as potential obstacles, as well as the Usuranians seeking an alliance with Tempest. But this level of aggression was beyond expectation. The first explosion erupted with devastating force, yet their army advanced unscathed. Could it be that they possessed fire element nullification? Such a notion seemed absurd. No army could boast such a formidable defense. And what of the Dragonutes and lesser dragons soaring ominously in the sky? How had Tempest amassed such a formidable force of strong species? The battlefield tilted heavily in their favor, their soldiers displaying unparalleled skill and strategy. Despite our army receiving gifts from Lord Clayman's awakening, we found ourselves outmatched and outmaneuvered. Commander, what should we do? A panicked soldier implored, desperation evident in his voice. Silence. I'll retrieve a dolman from the other unit, I snapped, determination fueling my steps as I swiftly exited the tent. But outside, I was met with a grim sight. The guards lay incapacitated, victims of an unseen assailant. Each one fell swiftly, as if succumbing to a deadly epidemic. A constant hiss filled the air, followed by the rustling of grass, signaling the arrival of Alvis, leader of the Beastkeeters, in her true form. With ruthless efficiency, she slaughtered everyone in the tent, sparing only me. Before I could react, Alvis blocked my path, forcing a one-on-one confrontation. If I can get a dolman from the other unit, we win, I thought grimly, but my plans were disrupted by Alvis and the unexpected intervention of goblin reinforcements. Unlike me, a dolman had received powerful gifts from Lord Clayman's evolution, making him a formidable adversary. But against all odds, I vowed to emerge victorious. I will win this, I declared defiantly, launching an attack at Alvis with my magical sword. As expected, she deflected my blows effortlessly. But unbeknownst to her, my mirror bracelet held a powerful secret, an artifact capable of summoning a doppelganger. As Alvis focused on deflecting my attacks, my doppelganger materialized behind her, poised for the strike. This is over, Alvis, I declared confidently as my doppelganger lunged forward to strike her from behind. However, to my surprise, a shadow intercepted the slash, deflecting it effortlessly. Nice try SSU. A voice echoed from the shadows as another goblin emerged, seemingly unremarkable in appearance but undeniably agile. Despite facing both opponents, I remained resolute. I could handle them in a 2v2 scenario, allowing me to focus on Alvis afterward. I directed my focus towards the goblin, slashing at him 3 times in quick succession. But to my frustration, he dodged each strike with ease, moving with a speed and agility that belied his appearance. Why are you pointing that scary weapon at me SSU? The goblin named Gobta exclaimed, his voice filled with surprise. Despite his seemingly incompetent demeanor, I couldn't shake the feeling that he held a position of authority. Of course, despite your looks, you've got to be at least a high commander, I muttered under my breath, acknowledging his unexpected skill. I continued my assault, but the goblin's nimbleness and the wolf's mobility made it challenging to land a decisive blow. Hey, is that clone all you have up your sleeve? It's pathetic, Alvis sneered, taunting me from the sidelines. As the battle raged on, my attention shifted back to Alvis, realizing too late that I had fallen into her trap. Her celestial snake eyes met mine, and before I could react, a surge of lightning engulfed the area. My left hand seized up, turning to stone as paralysis set in, leaving me vulnerable to Alvis's relentless onslaught. Her attacks came fast and furious, both magical and physical, overwhelming my defenses. I struggled to evade them all, but the lightning coursing through my body made it nearly impossible. In a moment of agony and despair, I cried out in pain, the realization dawning on me that I was outmatched in every way. Garg! I exclaimed, the bitter taste of defeat hanging heavy in the air. We defeated him, Gobta and I exclaimed between heavy breaths, the aftermath of our exhausting battle weighing heavily on me. I surrender. Yamza's voice was barely a whisper, but his surrender was short-lived as his body began to transform into a doll-like figure, a sinister presence making itself known. Do you really think I'd let you surrender? A voice, heard only by Yamza, echoed ominously. As Yamza's paralyzed arm moved against his will, a sense of dread washed over me as an ominous orb appeared in his hand. I don't ever remember bringing something like this. Yamza muttered, horror etched on his face, before the orb forced its way into his mouth, triggering a grotesque transformation. A Charybdis, born from the storm dragon Veldora, emerged from Yamza's crumbling body, its monstrous form accompanied by 10 others. The Charybdis absorbed a lot of dead and alive soldiers from the Clayman's army, taking their lives just to empower this monstrosity. Clayman's schemes knew no bounds, sacrificing his underlings without hesitation. Clayman, you piece of shit! I cursed, rage boiling within me as I faced the abomination before us. My celestial snake eyes had little effect on the creature, but I attempted to use them nonetheless, to no avail. Its regeneration capabilities were formidable, posing a significant threat to us all. At this rate, all of us will be. I began, only to be interrupted by the Charybdis's looming scale attack coming at me. But just as the creature's scales closed in on me, Sir Benimaru sliced every scale approaching my way, saving my life with a nick of time. In a swift motion, he sliced through the Charybdis, obstructing its regeneration with his golden flames. I honestly want to face the catastrophe-class forged Charybdis. You are no match for me, even at your full strength, but I guess 10 of you would suffice. Benimaru declared confidently, his aura pulsating with newfound power. With a simple gesture, he unleashed a torrent of flames that engulfed the 10 Calamity-class Charybdis, reducing them to ash in an instant. I watched in awe as the commander's strength was laid bare before me, his display of power leaving me speechless. It's over, Benimaru declared, his tone final, signaling the end of the harrowing ordeal. Sufia's frustration was clear as she stammered, "Damn, you're making me look like a second-rate fighter." Father Midray smiled gently, "I don't get many chances to use my strength like this against monsters." Despite his casual tone, he continued to spar with Sufia and Gabble, treating them as though they were mere children in the face of his strength. Suddenly, Father Midray's eyes widened in surprise as he hurled Gabble into Sufia once again, knocking them both down. With a wry grin, he activated his dragon eye, his gaze shifting sharply in another direction. "Quick, use your regeneration," Father Midray commanded the dragon faithful. Each of them immediately cast their healing spells, even extending aid to the Tempest army. S2, Gabble and the Dragonutes asked, astonished that they were included in the healing. Meanwhile, Hermes' voice echoed among the soldiers, "I can't believe it, defeating Charybdis." Hearing this, Sufia questioned, "Charybdis? The monster created by Storm Dragon Veldora? We already fought that. It came back," Gabble asked, visibly confused. "No, well, he did come back, but was wiped out right away," Hermes answered nonchalantly. Father Midray intervened to calm them. "The power you witnessed is only a fraction of the real thing. No ordinary Majin could defeat 10 of those creatures at once. Only a demon lord could manage such a feat." At that moment, the same red-haired Oni who had annihilated Charybdis arrived, greeting them casually, "Hey, looks like you guys are all right." Benimaru's piercing gaze locked onto Father Midray, who returned the look with equal intensity. Sensing the tension, Gabble and Hermes quickly intervened. "Oh no, Sir Benimaru. These are Lady Milam's people. They actually helped us," Gabble said, panicking as he moved to block Benimaru from starting a fight with Father Midray. Hermes joined in, positioning himself between the two. "That's right. Demon Lord Rimuru is Lady Milam's friend. If you hurt one of his allies, it won't end well," he warned, his voice filled with urgency. The dragon faithful were clearly not aligned with Clayman's army. Even though the battle was over, Benimaru and Father Midray continued to eye each other, itching for a fight, not to wage war, but to test their strength against one another. Before anything could escalate, Hermes, with a dismissive wave of his hand, voiced his disapproval of the impending skirmish. Sufia and Gabble echoed his sentiment with vigorous nods, while Benimaru simply remarked, "I'm in the same wind. We shouldn't fight here. If Lady Milam heard about this, she'd say, 'Let me join too.'" Benimaru chuckled, imagining Milam's enthusiasm. Father Midray, amused by the mention of his lady, exclaimed, "You Tempest people know Lady Milam too well. You're not too shabby yourselves, unlike Clayman's army. We're grateful for your praise." "It's thanks to the upbringing of our master," Benimaru acknowledged humbly. Hermes shifted the conversation, asking, "How did you even get here before Clayman's army could retreat?" "Oh, that, it's all thanks to our lord," Benimaru explained, though he kept the details vague. "Well, it's only natural for you to be surprised. Even as his subordinates, we were pretty impressed. Now, let's wrap this up, shall we?" Benimaru suggested, signaling the end of the discussion. But just as they were about to conclude, a voice echoed through thought communication. Less than Lord Benimaru. Greater than. Geld's urgent voice reached them. Less than what's going on, Geld? Greater than. Benimaru responded quickly. Less than we're surrounded. Greater than. Geld's tone was filled with urgency, and the connection through thought communication grew more fragile as the thick fog enveloped them. Less than we're outnumbered. Their forces number at least 1,000,000. Greater than. Less than that can't be right. There's no way Clayman's army has that many troops. Greater than. Benimaru replied, skeptical. Less than no. These aren't Clayman's soldiers. They're the humans Lord Rimuru and Lord Veldora exterminated at the western country's border. Greater than. Less than. Are you saying Lord Rimuru failed? Greater than. Benimaru asked, tense. Less than no, there's no soul in them. They're moving corpses. Greater than. Benimaru's mind raced. This was no ordinary army. It was exactly what Lord Rimuru had warned them about, the index finger, the White King Adalman. "What's the matter, Sir Benimaru?" Hermes asked, noticing the change in his demeanor. But it was Father Midray who answered, sensing the unnatural shift in their surroundings. A sudden gust of wind swept through the air. A dragon, wild and agile, darted above them with alarming speed. It wasn't just any dragon, it was a death dragon, imbued with the essence of undeath, its very presence unsettling the soldiers below. On the hill, a skeleton clad in crimson clergy robes stood alongside a skeletal swordsman. Surrounding them from all directions, north, south, east, and west, was an army of 1,000,000 moving corpses. The situation was dire. In this position, Lord Rimuru's goal of a no-casualty war was slipping out of reach. Fighting an army of death knights this large wasn't ideal. Less than Geld, teleport everyone to Jura, excluding us, greater than Benimaru commanded. Less than but. Greater than. Less than don't worry. We'll return safely. Teleport everyone, including Clayman's remaining forces. Lord Rimuru may have a use for them. Greater than. Less than understood. Greater than. After Geld successfully evacuated the army to the Jura forest, only a few warriors remained. Myself, Gabble, Gobda, Alvis, Sufia, the Dragonutes, and the dragon worshippers. What's going on? Hermes muttered, his voice tense. We're surrounded. Everyone, prepare for battle. The enemy is Adalman, I announced, bracing myself for what was to come. Death soldiers swarmed us from all sides, relentless and unyielding. I unleashed a golden flare, incinerating a vast number of undead warriors, but it seemed pointless. No matter how many we destroyed, their numbers appeared infinite, a ceaseless tide of darkness that would overwhelm us unless we could find and stop Adalman. Above us, the death dragon hovered menacingly, waiting for its next command. Then, from the chaos, a formidable swordsman approached, his skill far surpassing even Hakuro's. But where Hakuro's blade was honed by experience and emotion, this warrior's sword struck with cold, mechanical precision, devoid of any humanity. Midray's voice broke the tense silence, recognizing the looming danger this new adversary posed. The Death Dragon, Death Knight, and the robed skeleton, each one was a deadly threat. As the thick fog closed in, our group became separated, scattered across the battlefield. I thought Yamza was the strongest of Clayman's subordinates, but Midray's observation was painfully accurate. Still, I refused to yield. Just as I prepared to strike, Shuna, Soe, and Hakuro stepped forward. "Please, brother," Shuna implored. "This foe is ours to defeat. Allow us to handle it," she requested, her eyes resolute. "But, it's too dangerous," I cautioned, my concern evident. "Don't treat me like a child," Shuna retorted, her face set with determination. I hesitated, not wanting to put her at risk against such a powerful enemy. But I knew there was no changing her mind. "Fine, but if things get too dangerous, I'm stepping in. May the tides of war favor you," I said, offering a brief blessing. Shuna glanced at Soe and Hakuro, who stood ready behind her. With a nod, the trio moved forward, fearlessly advancing towards the undead army. I wanted to trust her to handle it, but the battle quickly escalated. Spells flew at us from every direction, and the thick fog released by the Death Dragon made it impossible to keep track of each other. "Shuna," I called out, but she had already vanished, or worse, we had been transported into separate spaces. No one answered. Even Midray and Gabble, who had been right beside me moments ago, were gone. Were the enemy deliberately isolating us, picking us off one by one? No, this was their home territory. Magical traps and ambushes echoed through the ruins. I couldn't use magic sense, which meant powerful countermeasures were in place. Suddenly, I was surrounded by a horde of undead. It seemed I would have to force my way through to reunite with the others. "I'm busting my way in," I shouted, determination flaring within me as I readied for battle. "You must be a Dalman, right?" I asked cautiously. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted as spatial interference was cast, distorting our surroundings. The dense fog released by the Death Dragon appeared to be the source. In an instant, my brother and Lady Milam's subordinates were transported to another dimension. "Ah, yes, I am none other than a Dalman, protector of the great demon Lord Clayman's domain," he declared smugly. "You lowly monsters should prepare to forfeit your lives. There's no need for suffering if you—" Before he could finish, Hakuro sprang into action, his blade flashing through the fog. However, the Death Knight, standing beside a Dalman, effortlessly blocked the strike. "Ho, to read my movements so precisely," Hakuro remarked, his voice calm but impressed. "Even as your body rots, you remain a swordsman at heart." Hakuro had already struck the Death Knight multiple times, but it remained unscathed, immune to death. Meanwhile, Soe moved swiftly. "String manipulation. 1,000 deadly cuts," Soe cried, as razor-sharp strings wove a deadly web around the massive dragon. The strings tore through its flesh, yet like the Death Knight, the dragon endured. Purification was our only option. Adalman's undead were no ordinary foes. Both the Death Knight and Death Dragon's souls were bound to him. If we could eliminate him, we would destroy them all. Alignment field. I cast the spell, a fusion of holy and anti-magic, modeled after human techniques. Its power rivaled a holy field. By combining and analyzing various magical barriers, I had transformed it into an offensive spell. The moment it was unleashed, the surrounding horde of undead was swiftly purified. "Leave this one to me," I declared firmly. Soe didn't argue. He had always been protective, often more so than my brother. But no one could defeat a Dalman but me. I wasn't here as a spectator. Since meeting Lord Rimuru, I had been shielded by others, but this was different. This was a battlefield. I will be the one to take him down. "I look forward to watching you try," a Dalman sneered, his laughter cold and hollow. "Such boldness, young lady. I would prefer to grant you a painless death, but mercy is not an option. Your concern is unnecessary." "Is that so?" His grin widened darkly. "Then die." Acid shell. His spell was powerful, but I had already prepared. Though I had lived a sheltered life, I was second only to Lord Rimuru in magic. Flame wall. A towering wall of fire erupted around me, and the acid shell evaporated the moment it made contact. "Not bad, but you won't escape this." A Dalman growled. His voice echoed with a dark incantation. "O vengeful spirits of the dead, I offer you sacrifices. Curse bind." A black mist took shape, racing toward me like a living creature. But I was ready. Holy bell. I cast, and the sound of the bell rippled through the air, purifying the evil energy. Adalman's expression twisted in shock. Impossible. Holy magic. How could a monster wield holy magic? You shouldn't be able to use it without divine favor. Monsters and humans aren't so different, I replied calmly. Lord Rimuru taught me that faith isn't limited to one race. If it's belief that powers these spells, then monsters can have faith too. There is no inherent good or evil, only the power of faith itself. Adalman seemed stunned, his composure shaken. His vestments, once holy, were now merely relics of his past. He had used various magical attributes, but no holy magic. Was he unable to cast it anymore? Is it because you can't use holy magic? I asked, my tone softening in respect. His face darkened with anger, yet beneath it, I sensed only sorrow. Enough, he shouted, casting acid shell once more. It won't work, I replied, my voice unwavering. Don't underestimate me, he roared, his frustration mounting. Then, something unexpected happened. Adalman began chanting a grand holy spell. I yearn for your divine power, O Lord, grant me all thou hast. Disintegration. This was exactly what I had prepared for. Lord Rimuru had warned us about certain human spells, and disintegration was among the most dangerous. But I was ready. Overdrive. Adalman stared in disbelief as I countered his spell. What? You recompose the spell? With so few magicules? How? I've learned to adapt. Disintegration may be powerful, but it's not invincible. In that moment, I tapped into the overwhelming holy energy from Adalman's failed disintegration, combining it with my own aura. Holy overdrive. A surge of pure energy washed over the battlefield, and Adalman was consumed by the light, purified without a trace. As the fog lifted, we found ourselves back on the Urizania border. It's over, I whispered. The Death Knight and Death Dragon, the two powerful foes Soe and Hekuro had been fighting, vanished soon after, purified by the lingering holy magic. That was incredible, Lady Shuna, Hekuro murmured, his voice filled with admiration. All right then, let's move. We still need to subjugate Clayman's fortress, I urged, determined to press forward. Princess, Soe called out softly. Yes, Soe, that was magnificent. Walpurgis. Clayman kicked off the Walpurgis with a rather lackluster speech. It sounded like a whimpering spoiled child, sulking because his plans didn't pan out. He started his explanation with pride, blaming Carrion for breaking the non-aggression pact and accusing me of killing him along with his spy, Mayulan. Basically, he pinned everything on me. His speech was so dull that I had to mentally simplify it just to stay engaged. Can't we just talk face to face? I asked, raising my hand. He looked irritated. What? I got straight to the point. Honestly, this speech is exhausting. Can't we have a more direct conversation? I prodded, trying to provoke a reaction. The most influential among the 10 couldn't hold back his laughter. Khoo, he's right, Clayman. Your talk is tiresome, the impatient guy chimed in. Guy, Clayman mumbled meekly, clearly embarrassed. I didn't come here just to listen to your boring speech, I continued, shifting to a more serious tone. What's your goal in attacking Milam? Are you just trying to show off your power? I interrogated him, not holding back. He glanced around at everyone and declared, did you hear that, everyone? This slime dares to belittle us. Remember, you're standing here alone. Clayman emphasized, trying to assert his dominance by pointing out the support he had compared to me. However, Dagrul, for some reason, took my side and questioned Clayman's motives. I sided with the newcomer because I can't trust anything you say. You've provided no evidence yet you speak with such confidence. Your story doesn't add up. Why do you move so flamboyant considering Veldora is in the picture? Dagrul challenged, glaring at Clayman. Clayman stuttered nervously. I'll explain in a second. Dagrul is right. This faction and voting were decided solely by Clayman, Frey, and Milam, who arranged this Walpurgis. Rimuru's fate isn't dependent on the numbers in his faction, Guy calmly pointed out, his words carrying significant weight. Then, instead of addressing Dagrul's argument, Clayman launched into a dramatic story about Mayulan, his ring finger, and some alleged actions of mine. Mayulan is alive right now. If I teleported her here, then your argument would fall apart, Clayman, I asserted confidently. There's no way, an ability to teleport someone to you, Clayman muttered, and all the demon lords seemed impressed. A slip-up perhaps, he. In fact, there is such an ability. I've already teleported Usuranian refugees to my country. Your plan to slaughter every soul in Usurania failed. I revealed. You're bluffing. You're making everything up, Clayman stammered angrily. In response to his insult, I pointed to my right side. A magic circle gate appeared, amusing the demon lords. So, you're so low as to have her corpse and let an evil spirit inhabit it? Clayman accused. He countered that with a cheap excuse though. I closed the magic circle gate. At this point, the demon lords began to doubt Clayman's actions, especially Guy, who interjected impatiently, "Why don't you just let him summon her here so we can end this?" I interrupted Guy, saying, "If Clayman didn't want that, I just have to let them see how you treat your subordinates," showing that I had multiple ways to expose Clayman. "What?" he muttered, taken aback. I flashed a display orb to the center of the Walpurgis room, showing the demise of his general, Yamza, as well as the masked Majin Terran footmen, his conspirators. "This is solid evidence, Clayman," I said sternly. "You can think it's a bluff all you want, but you're starting to get on my nerves," I declared to them all. A chair quickly approached Clayman and crashed nearby him, narrowly missing his face. It was a warning shot. Shouldn't we give him a suitable punishment? This is an insult to demon lords. Clayman pleaded to the council. "Shut up already, I'm the most dangerous one here. There's no one to help you against me," I boldly asserted. Guy smirked. "Everyone, this lowly slime is really insulting us. He's clearly underestimating us demon lords." Clayman pleaded once again. "To be honest, I don't care about being a demon lord. I just want to create a country where I can live happily. And I need help from humans to make that possible. That's why I've decided to protect them. Whether it's the Western Saints Church or the demon lords, they'll be my enemy if they stand in my way, just like you, Clayman," I said, pointing my fingers at him disdainfully. Guy issued a challenge to both Clayman and me. "If you truly are a demon lord, you should be able to handle that Majin yourself," he pointed at Clayman. "And, do you have any intention of declaring yourself as a demon lord?" he inquired. "Yes, I have already accepted the role of ruler of the Great Jura Forest, now known as Tempest," I replied confidently. The rules were simple, just like last time: beat Clayman to assume my demon lord title. Clayman chuckled. "I was trying not to get my hands dirty, but it seems it cannot be helped," he said with confidence. At that point, I was furious. His schemes, insults, and for punching my friend, I did not plan on restraining myself during this Walpurgis. As I squinted behind him, I was surprised to see that Clayman was not the only enemy. Frey, Milam, and Kazarim stepped up, accompanied by their subordinates. This caught the attention of the other demon lords. "Hey, that's unfair," they protested. But Guy didn't disallow it. After all, parties and groups were made in the council. I also had Ramirez and Dagrul, although Dagrul had only joined my faction due to his skepticism, and I suspected a part of it stemmed from Veldora's revival. While Ramirez wasn't a fighting demon lord. "Isn't this unfair?" I voiced out. Foo, what now, slime?" Clayman taunted. "Xian, Ranga," I called out to them, and they stood behind me. Additionally, since they allowed faction versus faction, Trainee-san and Beretta also stood behind me. However, we were still outnumbered. Apart from Carrion, who was going to fight, Kazarim and Frey were at demon lord levels. "Come forth, my demons," I muttered, and as I spoke, a gate of creation opened in the center of the room. A vast magical array, brimming with an ominous aura, emerged from it. However, only two figures appeared. Swiftly, they descended to my right and left. "This bastard," Guy muttered as he saw Carrera and Ultima. Foo, how can two greater demons stand against Milam?" Clayman sarcastically commented. In response, I flicked my fingers, causing a barrier that expands the space inside. The battle started with the table of Clayman faction fastly approached us. I also kicked our table, meeting the crash midway. The one who kicked their table however was Milam. Both table crashed from one another, meeting in the middle. "Milam," I muttered. "Seems like she really is manipulated this time." She had become a doll-like figure. I also analyzed Clayman. Seems like he have undergone an evolution as well. Clayman was undoubtedly an awakened demon lord. However, the demon lord seed or the way he awakened using the souls are not natural. Referring Clayman was also an awakened demon lord. This bastard, how dare he bring primordial violet in the Walpurgis? You are stupid for pulling off something like this in presence of the demon lords. As I gaze around, seems like the other demon lords couldn't ignore this event that have transpired. I gaze to Guy Crimson, who's unfazed by the event, which is weird in a way that he should be the one who's responsible to not let this thing happen. Rimuru have been collecting the most powerful beings in this world and employing them as his servants. Ah, a true demon lord. Let's see what you're made of, Carrera stated boldly, a confident smile playing on her lips as she closed in on Clayman. Heh heh heh, what can a mere greater demon do against one such as I, a true demon lord? That slime doesn't know his place, Clayman chuckled arrogantly, his laughter ringing out in the air. Lord Rimuru's intervention won't be necessary for the likes of you, and don't think too highly of yourself just because you bear the title of a true demon lord. Clearly you are the weakest one here, Carrera retorted, her words dripping with disdain as she diminished Clayman's stature. What did you say? Clayman's pride stung by her words. Enough chatter, Demon Lord Clayman. I'll be your opponent now, Carrera declared, cutting short the banter and readying herself for the impending battle. Heh heh heh, you, my opponent? Ultima questioned with a hint of amusement. This child, Kazarim muttered, his tone betraying a deeper understanding of the gravity of the situation compared to Clayman's bluster. Well, this is unexpected, Kazarim remarked. But with Milam by our side, there's no need for fear. I wouldn't be too sure if I were you, Ultima cautioned, pointing towards the fierce battle between Rimuru and Milam. Amidst the chaos stirred by the arrival of the primordial demons, one clash commanded undivided attention, the intense yet one-sided battle between Rimuru and Milam. Their combat sent shockwaves rippling far beyond the protective barrier, drawing the gaze of the assembled demon lords. This was no mere skirmish between awakened demon lords, it was a clash on a level approaching the legendary true dragons. Milam's relentless assault crashed forward with unyielding force, but Rimuru moved with an effortless precision that seemed almost otherworldly, gracefully evading every blow. His movements were deliberate, positioning him perfectly to release a spell of unimaginable power, one capable of dismantling Milam in an instant. Though Milam was the aggressor, the palpable tension of Rimuru's restrained might loomed over her, a silent reminder that even the smallest misstep could lead to her swift and decisive defeat. A 2-on-1, fine, bring it on. Xian roared, her voice filled with defiance. Charging toward her were none other than Sky Queen Frey and a disguised carrion. Frey moved with blinding speed, surpassing the sound barrier in an instant. Xian, lacking the agility to dodge, stood firm and took the hit head-on. The force should have crushed anyone else, but Xian grinned. Don't underestimate me. Your puny attacks won't work. She shouted, her voice brimming with confidence. Frey's eyes widened in shock as Xian swung her Odachi, unleashing a massive energy slash that ripped through the air toward Frey. Although it narrowly missed, the sheer force would have cleaved Frey in two had it connected. What power? Frey muttered, her usual composure shaken. Xian's strength had ascended to the level of an awakened demon lord, thanks to both Rimuru's demon lord blessing and the hero's gift from Shizu. This is the power of a true demon lord, Frey said, her voice tinged with disbelief. Demon lord, I'm just Great Rimuru's #1 secretary, Xian corrected with a smirk. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Frey glanced at the masked lion standing beside her. I need your help, she signaled. As he transformed into his royal beast form, the room was filled with awe. The revelation didn't faze Rimuru or Guy, who had known all along, but Xian remained unaware of his true identity. Frey attacked again, aiming a swift strike at Xian's face. Xian countered with a powerful swing of her Odachi. A thin cut appeared on her cheek, blood trickling down, a small victory for Frey, but it wouldn't last. In a matter of seconds, Xian had already regenerated. Her regeneration, it's stronger than both mine and Carrion's, Frey whispered, eyes wide. And that swing, if I hadn't dodged, I'd be dead. This demon Lord Rimuru's executive is a monster. Carrion charged, meeting Xian in a clash of raw strength. Their hands collided in a fierce struggle, but Xian overpowered him, throwing him across the battlefield. I love a good fight, but I'm ending this now with one move, Xian declared, her voice filled with deadly certainty. Carrion, panting heavily, grinned. I hate to admit it, but this woman's making me question my title as a demon lord. Save it, Frey shot back. She's not holding back. If we survive this, I'll gladly step down with you. Carrion chuckled. Then if we survive, wanna train with me? If we survive, Frey muttered. Then let's survive. My instincts are screaming, her next attack will decide everything. Agreed. Let's give it everything we've got. Frey and Carrion poured every ounce of their strength into one final gambit. Carrion unleashed his beast roar, a devastating magical-laden attack, empowered by their combined willpower. The destructive force of the roar disintegrated anything in its path, twice as potent as a typical disintegration spell. But Xian only smirked. Let me show you my true strength, Demon Lord's Hockey. She shouted, her body enveloped in a dark, ominous energy. Her magic aura intensified, proclaiming her as a true demon lord in her own right. She channeled all that power into her odachi, the blade glowing with fierce purple energy, the sheer force ready to be unleashed. Anyone who sides with that bastard Clayman is my enemy. She roared, releasing a colossal slash of purple energy. It tore through Carrion and Fry's combined attack like it was nothing, the force still barreling toward them, undiminished. Bwah! That was close, Carrion shouted, panting heavily as he and Frey barely evaded death by a hair's breadth. But the aftermath was undeniable. Carrion's knees buckled, his body trembling uncontrollably. Frey, too, struggled to stay upright, her regal composure shattered. Was this fear? Carrion muttered in disbelief. No, that attack. It barely touched us, but something changed. I can't stand, Frey answered, shaken. Damn it, Carrion cursed, losing his majestic royal beast form as he collapsed. Xian strode forward, her towering figure casting a shadow over the defeated Carrion and Frey. Her eyes glinted with determination, ready to finish what she started. The advantage was mine. Milam was utterly baffled by the power I wielded. Each of her attacks still carried immense force, and if any of them landed, they would cause significant damage. However, my speed and strength surpassed Milam's at this moment. I knew she wasn't going all out, but neither was I. I held back in each of my attacks to ensure Milam's survival. Honestly, I didn't feel like I could lose to anyone right now. I pressed the offensive, unleashing my spells and attacks toward Milam. Many of them hit their mark, each more potent than true dragon magic. Milam visibly clicked her tongue out of annoyance. It was effective, although Milam is healing instantly, the attacks are stopping Milam from going into aggressive. Though, it aches my heart to furtherly cause pain towards Milam. Hey Seal, is there any way to lift that item's curse? To dismantle the artifact we must remove the source of the curse Clayman although. That's all I gotta hear thanks. Opening square bracket ... closing square bracket. Carrera. Yes, my lord. Defeat Clayman. On it. The battle between Clayman and Carrera erupted in an instant, with Clayman desperately launching the first strike. Take this. Demon Dominance. Clayman's magicule surged as he unleashed his spell, ensnaring Carrera in a web of dark energy. He lifted her high into the air, her body frozen in place. Clayman smirked, convinced of his superiority. Heh heh heh, what now? A mere greater demon like you doesn't stand a chance against me. His voice dripped with arrogance. Carrera hung suspended, her expression calm, almost amused by his efforts. She tilted her head slightly, her eyes narrowing in mild curiosity. With demon dominance, I can control you, make you my puppet. Clayman boasted, his confidence swelling as he tightened his grip on the spell. But then, a sudden shockwave rippled through the air. Clayman's spell shattered, exploding violently. He staggered back, momentarily blinded by the blast. When the smoke cleared, Carrera descended gracefully, completely unscathed, as if the attack had never happened. Damn you, what did you do? Clayman spat, his voice tinged with panic. Your spell was pathetic, Carrera replied coldly, her tone dismissive. She conjured a sphere of glowing energy, twirling it effortlessly between her fingers. I crushed it with ease. Clayman's eyes widened in disbelief. What did you say? Without warning, Carrera blurred forward, her speed overwhelming. Before Clayman could react, her hand clamped over his mouth, silencing his protest. She leaned in close, her breath hot against his ear, her voice low and menacing. It's been thousands of years since I've fought in the overworld, she whispered, her lips curling into a wicked grin. Let's see if you can entertain me in my new body. With a flick of her wrist, she hurled him across the battlefield. Clayman crashed into the ground, groaning in pain as he struggled to rise. His confidence was fading, replaced by a growing sense of dread. Demonic bind, he shouted, desperation creeping into his voice. Ominous dark tendrils shot from the ground, racing toward Carrera. But Carrera merely sighed, her expression bored. I told you, your puny attacks won't work on me. The tendrils exploded in midair, disintegrating before they could even reach her. Clayman's eyes darted around frantically, searching for a way out, but Carrera was relentless. She summoned a barrage of explosive energy balls, hurling them at Clayman with terrifying precision. Each one detonated upon impact, sending shockwaves through the ground. Clayman barely had time to throw up a barrier before the first explosion hit. The force of the blast sent him flying, his barrier shattering like glass. Qua! Clayman cried out in agony, his body racked with pain. His once imposing form was now battered and bruised, his power draining rapidly. Carrera watched him struggle, a cold smile playing on her lips. Even 40 great mages together would struggle to match that kind of power, she mused, her voice dripping with mockery. She summoned 3 more energy balls, juggling them playfully as she stalked toward him. There was no urgency in her movements, only the calm confidence of a predator toying with its prey. Try to survive this, Demon Lord, she taunted, her eyes gleaming with malevolent delight. Carrera clenched the energy balls in her hands, merging them into a single, pulsating sphere of destructive power. She unleashed it with a flick of her wrist, the sphere hurtling toward Clayman like a meteor. Clayman's eyes widened in terror. He summoned every ounce of his remaining strength to erect a barrier, but it was too late. The sphere collided with his defenses, the explosion consuming him in a blinding flash of light. Gravity collapse, Carrera intoned, her voice echoing with dark energy. The ground beneath Clayman began to warp and twist, pulling him down into a crushing gravitational well. Oh, wait, I can't let my lord be harmed, Carrera said with a smirk. She raised her hand, conjuring a demonic magic circle beneath Clayman. Nuclear flame, a column of searing, thermonuclear fire erupted from the circle, engulfing Clayman entirely. The flames burned with an intensity that threatened to melt even the hardest of metals, but they were contained, focused solely on Clayman. Clayman's screams were drowned out by the roar of the flames. When the fire finally subsided, he collapsed to the ground, charred and broken, barely clinging to life. Carrera stood over him, her expression one of mild disappointment. Fighting indoors is such a hassle, she muttered, brushing the ash from her clothes. She turned away from Clayman, her interest already waning. I expected more from a so-called demon lord. However, when Carrera faced the other direction, Kurgahahaha, the heavens did not forsaken me. Clayman's body was tattered and burnt. However, something have changed for Clayman. Report. Clayman has acquired ultimate skill open hollow corner bracket deceitful king Belial close hollow corner bracket. Quickly, Clayman's magical count skyrocketed once more. And, his regeneration abilities allowed him to recover from Carrera's flames of doom. The battle between Ultima and Kazarim was over almost before it began. Kazarim, desperate to gain the upper hand, unleashed a relentless barrage of magical spells and physical attacks. His strikes were fierce, each one meant to bring Ultima to her knees. But Ultima moved with an almost casual grace, evading every blow with the ease of a predator toying with its prey. She danced around him, her movements fluid and effortless, as if the battle were nothing more than a game. At one point, she even tapped Kazarim on the shoulder mid-fight, a mischievous smile playing on her lips, before vanishing in a blur of speed. Her taunt only served to infuriate Kazarim further. This is fun, Ultima said, her voice light and carefree, as if she were enjoying a pleasant stroll rather than a life-or-death struggle. Kazarim's frustration boiled over. This is unfair. You're named, aren't you? That's why you have such an advantage. Ultima's smile widened, her eyes gleaming with mockery. Unfair. That's a strange thing to say, considering just a moment ago you were mocking my master. How fair was that situation for us? Kazarim's face twisted with rage. You fiend, I know your background, you're someone I cannot afford to underestimate. Ultima teased, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Who am I doesn't matter, your party insulted our lord, didn't they? And for that, I'm afraid I can't let you walk away. Ultima's smile never faltered, but the air around her began to crackle with dark energy. The playful gleam in her eyes was replaced by something far more dangerous. Kazarim, sensing the shift, attempted another spell, summoning a vortex of dark magic meant to consume her. The vortex roared to life, spiraling toward Ultima with terrifying speed. But Ultima merely sighed, raising a single hand. With a casual flick of her wrist, she dispersed the vortex, the powerful spell unraveling before it could touch her. Is that all you've got? Ultima asked, her tone almost bored. She vanished from sight, reappearing behind Kazarim in an instant. Before he could react, she delivered a swift kick to his side, sending him crashing into a nearby wall. Kazarim groaned in pain, struggling to rise. He summoned a blade of pure energy, charging at Ultima with a desperate cry. But Ultima sidestepped the attack with ease, grabbing Kazarim by the wrist and twisting it sharply. The blade dissipated as Kazarim howled in agony. You're too slow, Ultima taunted, her grip tightening. She effortlessly lifted Kazarim off his feet and slammed him into the ground, the impact creating a crater beneath him. Kazarim coughed up blood, his body trembling from the devastating blow. But Ultima wasn't done. She towered over him, her cold, merciless eyes locking onto his. That was a decent warm-up, Demon Lord. Now, Bye-bye, trash Tilda, she sneered. Terror filled Kazarim's eyes. He struggled to summon one final spell, but his body betrayed him, drained, broken, and utterly defeated. His once powerful aura had dwindled to nothing. Ultima's smile widened, a sadistic gleam in her eyes. Goodbye, Demon Lord Kazarim. With a swift motion, she plunged her hand into his chest. Inside, Ultima crushed his heart with chilling precision. Kazarim's body went limp, his skin turning ghostly pale before disintegrating into glowing embers, scattered like dust in the wind. A cruel grin spreading across her face as she shot a mocking glance at Luminous, reveling in her dark triumph. Ultima dusted off her hands, her expression returning to one of carefree indifference. Fighting weaklings is such a bore, she muttered, turning away from the battlefield. But a job's a job. With a final, dismissive glance at the destruction she had wrought, Ultima walked away, leaving behind the remnants of Kazarim's shattered ambitions. This is my ace under my sleeve. Come forth, open hollow corner bracket Spirit Queen, Ramirez close hollow corner bracket. After gaining Ramirez's approval, I acquired a new ultimate skill. A radiant rainbow light enveloped the room, casting a vibrant glow over everything. Suddenly, a massive celestial spirit gate appeared in the sky, opening with a slow, majestic creak. From it emerged a stunning figure, a fairy with shimmering rainbow hair and wings, her presence serene and overwhelming. It was an adult version of Ramirez, summoned by my newly acquired power. However, she wasn't the real Ramirez, merely a manifestation of the skill I had gained. Oi, oi, oi. You've got to be kidding me. How could something like this happen? The real Ramirez, observing from outside, protested with wide eyes and a flustered expression. Shouldn't you be the one to know this was possible? I muttered dryly, a smirk tugging at my lips. You're supposed to be the guide in acquiring this kind of power. The summoned Ramirez took on a commanding presence, just like my true dragon summons. Alongside Veldora and Velgrind, I now had another special S-level entity under my control. Without warning, Milam attacked the moment she was summoned. She unleashed her open hollow corner bracket Drago Buster close hollow corner bracket with terrifying force, the sky itself seeming to shatter as an enormous torrent of destructive energy roared forth. The sheer pressure caused the ground to tremble, and a shockwave blasted outward, powerful enough to decimate an entire city. But, in the face of this catastrophic power, the adult Ramirez remained calm. With a simple, fluid step forward, her wings glowing with ethereal light, she raised a hand and dispelled the attack with ease. The deadly energy dissipated into nothing, the rainbow shimmer of her wings blotting out the chaos. I glanced around at the others, fascination clear on their faces, their eyes wide as they took in the spectacle. But that was a story for another time. For now, I had to stay focused. Ramirez, this is an order. Keep Milam occupied. I'll put an end to this circus once and for all. Ramirez nodded sharply, her expression fierce. Understood. Milam, undeterred, launched herself toward me with blinding speed, her eyes blazing with fury. But Ramirez was faster, summoning a barrier so powerful that Milam's momentum was abruptly halted midair. The force of the clash sent ripples through the air, crackling energy lighting up the space between them. Good job. I gave Ramirez a thumbs up, my tone casual despite the intensity of the moment. It was surprising, though the physical capabilities of this Ramirez and Milam were worlds apart. Like comparing the earth to the heavens, Ramirez's mastery of magic was unparalleled. Her spells, deceptively simple at first glance, were intricately crafted, each one subtly fine-tuned to exploit the weaknesses of her opponents. I quickly made my way over to Ranga and the others. The moment I called his name, Ranga was by my side in an instant. His presence a reassuring shadow. What's the situation? I asked, my voice steady but expectant. It's done swiftly, my master, he replied with a deep bow. As he straightened, Ranga revealed a small, injured fox cradled gently in his massive fur. The creature trembled, its fur matted and its eyes clouded with pain. Help me. It looked grim. The curse left behind by Clayman's evolution was not only potent but lethal, ravaging the poor creature's body. The sheer intensity of it was enough to overwhelm anyone. I could lift the curse the usual way, but I had a better idea. Master, what should we do? Ranga asked, his tone filled with concern. Turning my attention to the trembling little fox, I knelt down and met her gaze, speaking softly, with genuine sympathy. Do you want to live? I asked, my voice gentle but firm. The fox's eyes flickered with a faint light, a sign of hope, despite the agony she was enduring. I can free you from the curse, I continued, but in return, you'll need to accept a name from me. I didn't want to force her into anything, leaving the choice entirely in her paws. The trembling fox, struggling against the overwhelming pain, summoned every last ounce of strength she had left. Her voice was weak but resolute as she spoke. "Please, if it's you, I'll accept anything." "Wise choice," I said with a reassuring smile. I carefully lifted her in my arms and gently stroked her brow, my touch soothing and tender. "From now on, your name will be Kumara." The moment her new name left my lips, a remarkable transformation began. She underwent an astonishing evolution. The evolution has also granted Kumara the ability to lift the curse on her own. "No further actions are necessary, Master." "Ah, really?" I asked, a hint of curiosity in my voice. "Yes, it's magnificent." I wondered if Seal believed I had planned this all along or if she was simply overpraising me. Either way, it felt as though I was unlocking my friends, one quest at a time. I smiled at Ranga, who responded with a triumphant howl before slipping back into my shadow with a sense of victorious pride. I made my way to the other side of the battlefield, only to find that the fight was already over. The scene before me was quite a sight. "What's all this, Beretta?" I asked, my curiosity piqued. My, if it isn't great Rimuru," Beretta responded with a mix of surprise and respect. Just like in the other timeline, Beretta had completely dismantled Clayman's doll, leaving behind a chaotic array of parts scattered across the ground. It was Beretta's first moment in this timeline of showcasing Ramirez's qualities. Mentioning this in front of him, however, might make him feel a bit embarrassed. So I won't do that. The next person I checked on was Ultima. She had utterly demolished Kazarim, leaving no trace of him behind. I was a bit concerned, especially since she had only been playing with him and hadn't gone all out. Ultima greeted me with a broad smile, clearly pleased with her work as she reported to me. I realized I should have instructed her to be more cautious in her approach. Oh well, the last one I checked on was Xian. No, I didn't approach her, she was the one who came to me. Ever confident, she had effortlessly taken down both Carrion and Frey. I couldn't help but marvel at their strength. 2 demon lords defeated simultaneously, even before awakening. Just how strong are my subordinates, really? I felt a pang of gratitude toward Xian. Unlike Kazarim, she hadn't obliterated Carrion and Frey completely, which was at least a small mercy. "I won, Lord Rimuru," Xian declared with a triumphant smile. "Why yeah, good job," I replied, though I couldn't help but feel a bit puzzled. "Oh right, Ultima and the others are freshly summoned. I guess it's my responsibility to instruct them, which I hadn't. Now, I came to realization that it's all my fault. Geez. Now then, the final battle was upon us, Carrera versus Clayman. This fight would determine everything, especially Milam's freedom, which hinged on whether or not Clayman was defeated. I couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease, so I turned to Seal for insight. Her response was nothing short of a bombshell. "Clayman will win, without a doubt. An ultimate skill wielder and a true demon lord is too much, even for a primordial demon." That caught me off guard. My subordinates had surprised us all with their remarkable growth, far exceeding what they'd accomplished in the other timeline. Their progress was nothing short of astonishing. The main factor for Master's subordinates' growth is the greater challenges they've faced in this timeline thus far. Seal explained. Additionally, Shizu's hero's party skill has played a significant role. However, Carrera, Ultima, and Testarossa haven't benefited from it, since they have yet to meet her. Oh, right, Shizu had already left Tempest when I summoned them. It was already impressive enough that Carrera had easily defeated awakened Clayman before he gained his ultimate skill. But now, I seriously doubted that anything Carrera could do would work against this new, far stronger version of him. I decided then and there, I needed to step in. Earlier, I couldn't bring myself to hurt Milam, so I had held back, suppressing my power. But now, it seemed like it was time to let a bit of that heat loose. To be continued.